The storm raged against the tall windows of the Bowmont mansion, lightning flashing across marble floors and golden stair rails. Yet nothing inside that grand home felt powerful. Everything felt fragile, trembling. Waiting to break at the center of it all was a little girl, curled beneath her thick blankets, breath-shallow skin pale as moonlight. For 3 years, no doctor could cure her fevers, her nightmares, or the endless weakness that stole her childhood. Day by day, the millionaire father paced the hallways like a ghost. The staff whispered of curses, and the city magazine speculated about inherited diseases, but no one, not even the world's best specialists, could explain why his only daughter was wasting away, and no one suspected that the truth hiding beneath her bed would change everything. Before we dive deeper into this emotional journey, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Gentle Hearts if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the impact one small act of love can have on a life. The story of the Bowmonts had always seemed golden. The father, Adrian Bowmont, built an empire from nothing, a real estate tycoon, who transformed abandoned buildings into shimmering towers of glass. His fortune grew with every year, yet the more he gained, the less time he seemed to have for the daughter he cherished but rarely understood. Little Emily grew up surrounded by beautiful things, but suffered inside an emptiness no one else could see after her mother died. Suddenly, from a heart complication, Emily grew quieter and more fearful. Retreating into the shadows of her enormous room, Adrian tried to fill her world with therapists, tutors, gifts, and extravagant comforts, but Emily seemed to fade more with each gesture. It wasn't long before her health began spiraling inexplicably. Strange headaches, trembling fits, sudden crying, restless nights. Doctors prescribed pills and tests, but nothing healed her when the fevers worsened. Adrian hired a new nanny named Grace. She arrived with a gentle posture, soft eyes, and a presence that brought calm even before she spoke. She wasn't impressed by the mansion or intimidated by Adrian's wealth. Instead, she focused entirely on Emily, studying her behavior, her routines. The shape of her worries, Grace noticed how Emily clung to old, stuffed toys and avoided looking at the shadows of her own room. She rarely spoke of her mother, and when she did, her voice trembled. Grace began to suspect that Emily wasn't sick from the body, but from the heart. The mansion itself felt too large for a grieving child. Its long hallways stretched like tunnels of silence. The staff tiptoed around Emily as if she were a fragile porcelain figure. Adrian, overwhelmed by guilt and work, visited her room in rushed moments, leaving just as quickly as he arrived. Emily, feeling abandoned and terrified, slept restlessly, and every night, Grace heard the same muffled whimpers coming from the child's room. It broke her heart. Yet nothing explained the sudden fevers that struck out of nowhere, or the draining fatigue that made Emily too weak to stand at times. One evening, as the wind held and rain struck the windows, Grace watched Emily curl into herself again. Her breaths came fast, shallow, panicked. Grace sat by her bed, holding her hand until the trembling eased. She whispered stories, hummed lullabies, and brushed Emily's hair until her small body finally softened. But when Emily drifted into an uneasy sleep, her hand slipped off the bed, her fingers brushing the wooden frame. Grace leaned down instinctively to tuck her hand back in, and that's when she saw something. A flicker of movement, a shadow, something small and quick slipping beneath the bed frame. At first, Grace froze, thinking her eyes had played a cruel trick. But then she heard a faint, irregular sound, a soft, broken whine, something that didn't belong in that luxurious room. Her heart thudded. She got down on her knees, slowly lowered her head, and peered beneath the bed. What she found changed everything there. Curled against the wall, shivering and frightened, was a malnourished little puppy with matted fur, swollen paws, and terrified eyes. It looked weak and sick, as if it had been hiding there for days. Maybe even weeks. Its ribs were visible, and one leg seemed injured. The poor thing was shaking violently, its breathing uneven. Grace felt her breath catch in her throat. How long had it been there? How had it gotten inside the mansion? Why hadn't anyone heard it? But then, as she inched forward, she noticed something beside the puppy, a crumpled blanket. Emily used to carry everywhere after her mother died, and suddenly everything fell into place. Emily had hidden the puppy. Emily had been sneaking food from her meals, hiding bits under her bed. Emily had been terrified the staff or her father would take away the only source of comfort she had dared to love again. Grace realized that Emily's anxiety hadn't been caused by illness. It had been caused by the unbearable stress of hiding something small, precious and fragile, in a house where she felt she could not show her true heart. The puppy whimpered again, and Grace's eyes filled with tears. Emily had been carrying this secret alone, worrying, constantly losing sleep, skipping food so she could feed the puppy, living in fear of being discovered. Her emotional stress had become physical sickness. Grace gently coaxed the puppy out, wrapped it in her arms, and held it close. Emily stirred awake, eyes widening with terror when she saw what Grace held. The little girl's face went pale, her body tensing as if she expected Grace to take away the only thing connecting her to comfort. In a cold world, but instead of scolding her, Grace placed the puppy beside her, letting Emily hold him tightly. The child crumbled into sobs of relief, burying her face in the puppy's fur. Grace held both of them, whispering softly, until Emily's shaking stopped. The next morning, Grace asked the staff quietly if anyone had seen the dog before. They all shook their heads, but the gardener later revealed he had seen a stray limping near the estate weeks earlier. It must have squeezed through a gap in the back gate and found shelter, where it sensed warmth and safety. Emily's room. Grace finally approached Adrian in his office, determined to help him understand something deeper than illness or fear. She explained the entire situation, the puppy, the long nights of anxiety, the weight Emily had been carrying alone, and the crushing silence of the household. That left her feeling voiceless. Adrian sat frozen, absorbing the truth, his face filled with guilt and disbelief. He realized he had been trying to fix Emily's body. Without seeing her heart, he had drowned her in luxury, while neglecting the connection she desperately needed. The transformation began slowly. Adrian started spending more time with Emily, reading to her, sitting beside her. Listening truly, he allowed her to keep the puppy, who quickly became part of the family. They named him Oliver, and he followed Emily everywhere, his own health improving as hers did. Emily began to smile again. Her cheeks flushed with color. Her nightmares faded. Her fevers disappeared. Doctors were baffled by the abrupt recovery. But Grace and Adrian understood it wasn't medicine that had healed her. It was love, safety, and the return of something she thought she'd lost forever. Trust the mansion began to change too. It became warmer, filled with laughter, soft lights and small memories blooming in once empty corners. Adrian redecorated Emily's room with bright colors and cozy blankets. Grace stayed on, becoming more than a nanny. She became family. Emily grew stronger, happier, more confident. And the puppy that had once trembled in the shadows became her shadow of joy, racing beside her through the halls that no longer felt frightening. With time, Adrian realized he had been saved too. His daughter's healing became his own redemption. He learned that money could buy security, but never love. He learned that grief must be shared, not smothered, and he understood that sometimes the smallest creatures carry the greatest messages. Years later, when Emily told the story of the puppy under the bed, she would say that it wasn't the animal that saved her. It was the courage of someone who cared enough to look deeper. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Your engagement helps us bring more meaningful stories to the world, reminding everyone that compassion can change lives more than wealth ever could. Before we end, here is a special request. Please comment below with one kind thing someone once did for you, or one kind act you hope to give someone.